I know he's widely viewed as the greatest player in basketball history, but even with that being said, it's still quite remarkable just how many fascinating what-ifs are surrounding Michael Jordan's legacy. And now we have yet another one. I recently discovered this clip thanks to the account NBA Cobwebs on X. This is a great account to follow if you're looking for some rare and hidden gems of basketball history. Now this one comes from the mouth of Michael Jordan himself, and this occurred on May 5th, 1984, leading up to his NBA draft. Take a listen.
Michael Jordan says there are two major reasons for his decision to come out early and skip his senior year: money and the possibility of playing with championship contenders.
You know, I would love to play for the Philadelphia 76ers. I would love to play for Los Angeles Lakers. Those teams are, well known. And, they win. And, coming off winning a world championship, who wouldn't want to go there and play and hopefully win another?
Wow, there's a lot to take away from this. For one, I think it's really interesting that Michael Jordan wanted to jump on the bandwagon of a team that was already winning championships. If we're being honest, this kind of goes against the mindset of some of his biggest fans. Yes, Michael Jordan did end up joining the Chicago Bulls, and it was an organization that was bad before and after his playing days. And under his leadership, he turned it into a dynasty. But with that being said, usually other greats like LeBron James and Kevin Durant are criticized for joining teams that are already well established, when in reality, Michael Jordan wanted to do the same thing if given the opportunity. So I look forward to seeing how you guys wrestle with this one in the comment section below. But as for me, that's not really the point of this video. I'm more interested in the execution of the what if. What would it look like if Michael Jordan actually got what he wanted? Well, first off, I want to look at Michael Jordan on the Philadelphia 76ers. Out of the two teams that MJ mentioned, this one seems like the far more realistic possibility, because the 76ers actually had the 5th overall pick in the 1984 NBA draft, meaning they would have only needed to move up 2 picks in order to take Michael Jordan. If Michael simply refused to play for Chicago, similar to how Dominique Wilkins did when he was drafted by the Utah Jazz before being traded to Atlanta, then what choice would the Bulls have had, other than exchanging their 3rd pick with Philadelphia's 5th pick? Of course, the 76ers would have to sweeten the deal to move up in the draft, but I don't think that would have been all that difficult because they already had an elite shooting guard on their roster, which was the NBA All-Star Andrew Toney, who was still in his mid-20s, and who was just coming off of a season where he averaged 20 points per game. If Jordan tried to force Chicago's hand, and the 76ers were willing to trade their 5th pick and Andrew Toney to the Bulls in exchange for their 3rd pick, then I don't see how Chicago could turn that down. So now we have Michael Jordan on the 76ers in the 1984 to 1985 season, and I believe this absolutely stacked roster would be immediately ready to challenge the Boston Celtics for a trip to the NBA Finals. The starting lineup would have been led by the 28-year-old Maurice Cheeks, who's one of the most underrated two-way point guards in NBA history. Michael Jordan obviously starts at shooting guard, and then the small forward would be the 34-year-old Julius Erving, who was still a 20 points per game scorer and an MVP finalist. Then at power forward is one of the greatest defensive players of all time in Bobby Jones. And then at center is the 29-year-old Moses Malone, who went on to finish 3rd overall in the MVP voting. Obviously, Michael would still have to compete with the Boston Celtics, the Showtime Lakers, and the Bad Boy Pistons. So you can't simply assume that Jordan's winning championships every single year. But I think it's fair to say that if Jordan joined that 76ers group, then he would have started collecting rings in the 80s rather than the 90s, as this Philadelphia squad had absolutely everything necessary to be perennial winners in that era. The biggest question is how the 76ers would retool and build around Jordan in the 1990s, because the best supporting players on this 76ers team would be aging out of the league as Jordan was hitting his prime. So in order for him to eclipse the 6 rings he won in Chicago, management would have to do their part as well. Regardless, the mid to late 80s 76ers is a terrifying lineup that is resulting in plenty of success early on. Now let's look at the Lakers. This would have been a much more difficult trade to pull off, because the Lakers' first round pick was all the way down at 23rd, which means they would have had needed to move up 19 spots in order to take MJ. There's just no way that the Lakers could have convinced the Bulls to give up that pick unless they gave up some serious talent in return. But one package that probably would have got it done is the 23-year-old James Worthy, the 23-year-old Byron Scott, and the 23rd pick in the NBA draft. At the time, the Bulls didn't realize that they were potentially drafting the greatest player of all time. So passing up young and upcoming star guards like Worthy and Scott would have been very difficult for them to resist, especially if Michael made it clear that he wanted to play in Los Angeles and was willing to get pushy about it. So now that MJ's on the Lakers, they have a shockingly dominant starting five, as Magic Johnson is running the floor. Michael Jordan is his main target on the fast break. The Defensive Player of the Year candidate, Michael Cooper, has now moved into the starting lineup so he can play at small forward. Kurt Rambis is holding down the power forward spot, and the captain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, is securing the center position. This Showtime Lakers group would have simultaneously bolstered 3 out of the top 10 greatest players in NBA history, and all while they're still lethal. And amazingly, I think each of their games complement one another. If this was to happen, then there's no question that the Lakers would have dominated the rest of the 1980s decade, assuming they all remained healthy. Unlike the 76ers, I would also have confidence that the Lakers would be able to build a contending team around Jordan for the 1990s, after Magic and Kareem had already retired. Personally, I don't see how MJ could get any less than 8 championships in this scenario, with even as many as 10 rings feeling completely realistic. It's interesting, and I'm glad Jordan's career worked out the way that it did, because I personally think it means more to basketball history for Jordan to take an organization from being a lottery team to a dynasty. But with that being said, I can only imagine how much more Michael Jordan would have won if he had just been more insistent about getting what he wanted heading into the NBA draft. So now it's your turn. How do you think MJ would have done on the 76ers or Lakers? And if that happened, how would it change the way we view his legacy? I look forward to hearing your thoughts in the comment section below. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more basketball content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.